Welcome to Brainworms and Tangents. My name is Pamela.
And I'm Carissa.
And we are two 20-somethings with ADHD on a quest to chase our impulsive ideas we can't shake. This is a self-growth podcast that is all about becoming who you want to be, one brainworm at a time.
So I hear you have a brainworm.
Yes, my brainworm has been decluttering. I feel like I just have way too much clutter and it's taking up too much space in my brain. So that's why we came up with the declutter challenge.
Yes, I think there was end of the year winding down. We started around mid-November.
So it was November 19th, I want to say.
Yeah. And getting into the holiday season, I think a lot of people, when it gets close to like Christmas and Thanksgiving, they're trying to clean their house anyways to have people over. So they just realize all this stuff. In our situations, that wasn't the case, but I just think there's always mounds of clutter in a lot of places. So I think this was the perfect challenge for us.
I agree. So we decided we would do it through the end of the year, and we had some trouble deciding how many items we actually wanted to declutter because the number seemed really daunting.
Yeah, I think initially you said about like 100 items, and there was this girl on Instagram or TikTok who was doing 10 items a day until the end of the year. And I was like, 10 items for 10 days is already 100 items. I said, I think we should go bigger. So we decided on 300 items to get rid of.
After I talked you down from 500.
Yeah. And I think 300 was, well, we tried to figure out what is an item. We had a bit of a debate on what actually counts, because I was just getting rid of random pieces of paper, receipts, counting that as one item.
No, what Carissa did, yes, the Post-it notes and receipts was, I don't think is valid as an item, but what I think was an illegal move was you had a package of hot hands.
I didn't open
and you
it.
opened the package of hot hands and you counted each one individually. That's creating more clutter. That is not in the spirit of the challenge.
No, I had 6 packs. I didn't even open them. It was just 6 separate, very expired and very outdated packs of.
But they were in a bigger package.
I can't remember the specifics.
You took them out of a package.
Hey, but you know what? They're not in my drawer anymore, and that's the spirit of the challenge.
Well, no wonder you wanted to do 500 items if each thing counts as 6. So anyway, we did have to figure out what it meant to declutter. Mm-hmm. Because it's true. Something like a receipt that's been on your nightstand and you haven't moved it, it is creating clutter, but also that's just trash. But isn't all clutter trash? I don't know. The other thing is, like, what about a cardboard box that I had been meaning to move? If I finally take it out to recycling, is that me decluttering it? Does that count?
And I think in the spirit of making our own challenge, we were able to make up the rules as we went.
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, all we're doing is getting rid of stuff. It's not, we're not running a marathon and saying, we're just going to change how many miles we ran and call it a marathon. At the end of the day,
this was our marathon.
This is our marathon.
I decided that I wanted to get a little bit more information about decluttering as we went into this challenge. So I read a book called Decluttering at the Speed of Life by Dana K. White. And I learned some strategies for decluttering that I feel like were really useful for our challenge. Something that I really liked that she talked about was the container method. And I think this might be a more widely known method, but essentially, and it's so intuitive, but it's essentially that you can only have as much stuff as fit in your containers. And if you have too many containers in your container, so for example, my kitchen is a container, but then within that has a container of the cabinet. And within the container of the cabinet, I might have a shelf as a container. And within that, I might have maybe a box that sorts out different things. So if I'm filling one of those containers and I don't have room to put in another container, well, that's my limit, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a great way to look at it, because that actually helped me a lot in the kitchen, as like we'll talk about going through and decluttering stuff, because it kind of helps make the decision for you of not, should I get rid of something? It's, I have to get rid of something. Now, what is it that I'm deciding to get rid of? So kind of helps there. And that's something that Dana talks about in the book too, is that decluttering is all about decisions and making a decision of what's going to stay. And it's not about organizing or moving stuff around. It is about making the decision to remove something from your space. And the author has some questions that you can help ask yourself as you're decluttering. So she said, you should ask yourself, where would I look for this if I needed it? And the other question is, do I have room in that place for that thing? So that also helped me as I was trying to figure out where things go, or just picking stuff up throughout my home and being like, well, this can now go to the declutter pile because I don't have anywhere to put it. So that was really helpful throughout the challenge. Mm-hmm. Did you have any methods, Carissa?
Necessarily. I think going certain areas at a time was helpful. Again, going back to my hand warmers, I just opened my junk drawer and I was like, okay, what's in here? Expiration dates were big, because why was I holding on to those? What did I need them for? And also they're not going to work because I think they expired in 2023. So that was just like an easy no-brainer. It was also helpful. What we were doing was sending pictures to each other of like all of our stuff. So it was helpful seeing the things that you were decluttering and being like the most random thing that we both decluttered was our old license plate. And
I know.
It was like, yeah, you're right. Why am I holding on to this? It wasn't like decor. It wasn't up on the wall. It was just taking up space. But I'm just too sentimental. I was like, it's my front plate.
That was a really difficult part of this, was just the emotions attached to things. Mm-hmm. And this is something that was in the decluttering book as well. But for me, it was a lot of abandoned projects or like to-dos. So things that I've been holding on to deal with one day. Mm-hmm. And by getting rid of the item, I had to accept that I was never going to do that thing. So for example, I think it's almost 3 years ago at this point, I bought like 20 giant, like those giant fuzzy balls of yarn, because I was convinced I was going to make a giant bee stuffed animal. I was going to crochet it. And it was taking up so much space. I moved like 5 hours away with all of that yarn because I was like, I'm going to make this giant bee plushie. And I had to accept 3 years later that I will never make it. If I haven't done it now, I probably never will. Mm-hmm. And that was hard to admit. But at the same time, decluttering the items helped remove that like clutter in my brain of every time I looked at it, I would feel bad that I had it and that I hadn't done it. So it was also just kind of like an emotional upheaval as well, just getting rid of this stuff. So hard to make the decision, but then much easier once it was gone.
Yeah, and then you're not looking around being reminded of like the shame and guilt of all these like projects that you never completed. And it truly is like out of sight, out of mind. You can move on. It kind of like Marie Kondo, the thanking the things for what they've served you and then letting them go. I think the main thing is just being intentional about what you're buying and then using it obviously before it goes bad, before it expires, or before that like spark wears off.
Yeah. And speaking of being intentional about what you're buying, I don't know if you experienced this during the challenge, but I definitely found myself feeling really guilty about buying certain things that I decluttered very soon, things that I've bought within the last couple months or a year. And I ended up getting rid of them through this challenge. And it almost made me want to not get rid of them so I didn't have to admit that I made a stupid purchase. But at the same time, I think putting myself in the position of having to get rid of something that I just bought is the only way to curb the habit of buying things that I don't need, is to suffer a little bit through that process so I don't do it again.
No, that is hard, especially when online shopping is super easy. You can think of something, get it, and have it literally 3 days later. Or just impulse buying things in the store. It can be very easy just to be like, oh, I want it. Okay, cool, I have it. Now what? And then get rid of it.
Yeah. So with this happening in November and December, I don't know about you, but it definitely made me very intentional about what I put on my Christmas list, because everyone was asking me what I want. And I was like, nothing. I don't want anything because I have to get rid of 20 things by tomorrow. And I had to be very intentional about what is it that I really want or need and where would I put it. And just kind of helping my friends and family know what is the best thing to get me through this process.
I didn't even make a Christmas list. I mean, that's just like time in general. Time just happens so fast, and like no one really asked, and I was like, I don't really know what I want. So, but yeah, I can imagine the don't give me anything. I don't want anything. I don't have room for anything. Yeah. And what Pam said, so what we did with our like plan for the challenge is each day there was a set number of things that we had to get rid of. So we didn't necessarily know what it wasn't just 300 things over a course of until now the end of the year. It was kind of split up so it would be easier rather than just purging 300 things. So some days it could be 3, the next day 19, which I don't know if it was super helpful that way.
How did that schedule go for you, Carissa?
This was not the easiest thing, and I did not finish the challenge. In my head, the challenge is still an ongoing thing, but it was helpful to have like a goal for each day. But I don't know if it's what worked the best for my brain. Mm-hmm. And also, I think the time frame. This was right before Thanksgiving. This was like we had Christmas, holidays. I was traveling. I wasn't home. And I think that made it very difficult.
Right. There was at least 2 to 3 weeks in this time that I wasn't home.
Yeah.
So it just kept piling up, the amount of things that I had to get rid of. And it was so wonky. I don't think that this method was ADHD friendly, because what I kept doing was either A, missing days because I wasn't home, or B, I would get really into the decluttering and then I would put aside too many things that I needed that was more than the amount that I was supposed to get rid of that day. So I would make like a side pile of things to be decluttered, and then I had to count it for the days that I had extra things that I need to get rid of. And I think you're right. It would have been better if we just did 300 items before the end of the year. And then that way, when the ADHD hyperfocus kicks in, you can just work with it. And then when you forget about the challenge for 2 weeks, that's fine. Because the way that it went for me was I was kind of consistent. I was skipping some days here and there. And then Christmas hit and I got so behind. And then I also did not finish the challenge by December 31st. However, this morning, we're in January now, I did wake up and declutter. Let me check the spreadsheet. I decluttered 117 things this morning. Just so that I could finish.
That's commitment.
But that worked really well for me. Like,
I wonder, it was the timeline, it was the pressure.
It was the pressure. It was, we have to record this podcast today. So I'm going to get rid of 117 things.
What types of things were you getting rid of?
Oh, well, let me tell you the journey that I went on this morning. So we started with my pile of like backlog, just things. And my apartment looked crazy during this time because there would just be like just random things in the corners of every room that I was like, oh, this is to be getting rid of. So I went around collecting all of those items. I decluttered some of my cat's toys. There's just some that he just never touches. So I got some there. did a lot in the kitchen. There was a lot of water bottles that I got rid of, and my container is full. My cabinet where I keep them is full, so therefore some water bottles had to go. Let's see what was on my list for today. I got rid of so many claw clips. I have a graveyard of claw clips that is just everyone that I've bought and does not hold my hair up. So I got rid of a lot. So many sunglasses. I got rid of like 6 sunglasses. Kind of the same thing. I kept buying them and thinking they would look good on me, and then they didn't. Got rid of those. And then I went to clothes. So I started getting rid of a lot of clothes that I never wear, that don't fit me. And that is how I rounded out my 117 items, just going through all that stuff. Save the clothes for last, since I knew there was going to be a lot of those that I could get rid of.
No, that's really impressive. So, round of applause for you.
Thank you. I really locked in this morning.
That, I think in true ADHD fashion, that makes a lot of sense. You had a deadline, you knew it was going to be today, getting everything done to the last minute, just so you had like something to show for. That's why I'm like, yeah, I think it would have been better if it was just like, okay, yeah, 300 items over this course of time, go for it. But I think in general, I'm just really bad with decluttering. I think in the past I've done the Marie Kondo method of bringing all of one item, like one category to the room and just having it all in front of you and going from there. I did that when I was in high school, and that's very overwhelming. I've also gotten to the place where you start something and then I don't want to do it anymore, and now I have all this stuff everywhere and all these little piles of things. And that can just be overwhelming. And one of the things that I noticed that you were doing especially is not everything was just getting thrown away. You had things that were getting thrown away, things that were getting donated, things that you were just going to give to other people. And I think that makes it harder as well, because not everything goes in the same place. You weren't just putting it in bags. You're like, okay, this needs to go here and this needs to go in my car to take to the thrift store, but I need to put this aside to give to someone else. And you just get really caught up. It's not as simple as like, okay, everything is going to be in the same place. We're doing all the same things. But that's like a sustainable way to give, like, repurpose things, let someone else, this doesn't work for me, it'll work for you. It's hard.
That's something that the book that I read talked about too, is balancing being a good person and doing yourself a favor and improving your own life, getting rid of things in your home. Most ideal thing is you sell the item so you can at least make some of your money back. Like I'm looking at my 8 pairs of sunglasses that I threw out that I paid for at one point. So like that would probably be the best idea, but not everything's worth your time. And if you just make another project out of it, that's going to be so difficult. So then the next thing is, okay, taking for donations. I mean, like that's easy enough. Or if there was things that I specifically knew that people in my life have been wanting, I tried to connect those items with them. But that's also an extra step of texting that person saying, hey, do you think you would want this? And probably the easiest thing to do, right, is just throw it all in the trash. And I think the thing to keep in mind is you've already done the harm by buying the item. So the best thing that you can do from now on is to not engage in this kind of purchasing in the future, and just do the best you can right now.
Yeah, I could see a no buy challenge, no spend challenge in our future. I think they go together. So. Yeah.
The other challenge that tied into this was something that's been going around the internet, probably I think like last year, was Project Pan. And I ended up doing that as part of my decluttering one day, where I took out all of the products that I had in my bathroom. So like makeup or soap, personal hygiene, those kinds of things. And I lined it all up by item type to see how many of the same item that I had. And then I just selected one from each category of item so that I could completely use that item until I reached for a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was super enlightening to see how many different products that I had that technically did a slightly different thing, but at the end of the day was the same product. So it was especially with like hair stuff. I had about like 4 or 5 different kind of like hair perfecting sprays that also had like a heat protectant in it. I'm like, well, at the end of the day, these are all just heat protectants, right?
Yeah.
Like that is, and they might have a different formula or like a slightly different purpose. So that was super enlightening of not purchasing new products just because I want to try one that is slightly different, when I should probably just finish what I have. Or if I don't like what I have, then find someone else to take it or throw it away, because there's no point in having multiples of everything with no plan to use all of them.
Yeah, it was very interesting, I think, when Project Pan was going around, just because we do just have so many things, whether it's the next thing that's trending, the next thing that is supposed to be the, like, this is the best, you don't need any other thing except for this. And it can be very easy to fall into that. My biggest thing is makeup has expiration dates, skincare has expiration dates. I don't think I'm not remembering when I bought something. I think it's the same thing of like, oh, well, I have it, I'll just use it until it's gone. I'm like,
Are you saying I should throw out my Naked 3 palette from 2014?
hey,
You think that's expired? I used that yesterday.
I don't know. Who am I to say? I don't know. I think maybe the FDA or whoever makes all the things might have other opinions. That's why they have. But even then, I think products are too big, because sometimes it's like 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. I don't know. I don't think.
You know what I've kind of been thinking about lately is maybe I should just be buying the mini version of all my products. Like, you know how at the end of the Sephora, the Ulta line, it has like all the mini versions of your favorite products. Maybe I should just buy that, save money, and I don't even think that I would finish the mini one.
See, but that's hard. We live in a world where buying in bulk is also the norm too. So
Yeah.
why buy the small moisturizer when you can buy the big one that'll last you forever? But I think this also goes into living alone. I think as we live alone, sometimes we have, I think certain products are meant to be shared.
Mm-hmm.
Lotion, for example. I have like huge bottles of lotion. And it's like, okay, yeah, I don't have, like, I could use this every day and probably still not run out by the time it says I'm supposed to. Same thing with food. I think that is like a big, I don't know if that's considered declutter if we go back to our definition, but like cleaning out the fridge, I think I'm always buying too much things before I can consume them before they go bad. So
If you do have a reason to get engaged or be in a relationship, it is to share food.
we live in a society, I don't think, that appreciates single people and single households.
Sounds like a you problem, Carissa.
No, it's a it's a it's an epidemic of people. People are There's like a thing of like people that live in like New York City, for example. It's so much cheaper to have a roommate because
Yeah.
you can't live by yourself. I never finished gallons of milk, half gallons even. It's sad. It's lonely. But neither here nor there. Back to declutter.
Carissa needs to find someone to share a gallon of milk with.
I think that's what it boils down to. I also need someone to help me declutter, but it is what it is. I actually don't think that would be helpful. I think I would actually get really overwhelmed.
Well, so the book actually talks about how to help someone else declutter. So maybe I need to go over to your apartment and help you declutter.
Yeah, that's what we should have done. We should have just done one house at a time. Done your apartment, then done my apartment. This wasn't meant to be a solo task.
Did you feel like you had to make any really hard decisions when decluttering?
I think the hard decision was really just to declutter, which I think is why my challenge isn't done yet, because I didn't touch any of my clothes yet. In my head, I'm still doing this. I want to finish it just so I can. I've been meaning to declutter. So there was like spring cleaning and just all these things. We have all these times to get rid of stuff. But I have so much stuff and it doesn't serve me any purpose. But the mountain that is let's clean my closet is just too high. I don't even want to try and climb it. So I don't know. It's still it's left untouched for now.
Yeah, clothes are definitely a big hurdle. I feel similarly in that I think the hardest thing was deciding that I was going to get rid of stuff, but I'm surprised that I didn't have to make any really difficult decisions. But maybe that's going to come later. Maybe I was getting rid of a lot of the easy stuff. The other thing is my fiance is moving in with me this summer, and I think that is going to be a really hard exercise in decluttering, because realistically, for anything that she brings into my apartment, I should be getting rid of one equal item of mine, or we decide to keep my thing and get rid of hers. And I think I'm just very attached to a lot of the stuff that I have. So when it comes to a lot of those like basics, like we're going to have to decide if we're going to get rid of my cups or her cups, or my plates or her plates. And that sucks. I want to keep all of my stuff. Yeah. I don't want her stuff.
No, it does make it hard trying to share a space, because yeah, you don't need like 2 sets of measuring cups or 2 knife blocks and some of these things.
Right. But at the same time, I'm sure my fiance doesn't want all of my stuff.
True.
So
that definitely is like good motivation though for a challenge. I think if someone is looking to move, downsize, or have someone move in with them, this is like a good step to take so you're prepared for when that time comes. I think my hardest thing is always just sentimental like papers of stuff. I have so many birthday cards, so many random notes and things that I don't need to hold on to, but I want to. So I think, like you said, maybe it's putting all those in a single container, a box or something. But I'm just very sentimental. This challenge doesn't work for sentimental people, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's almost needed more because you're more likely to hold on to things. Would you recommend this brainworm to a friend?
I would, but I think they need to make it work for them. And whatever that may be. Maybe it's just getting rid of one thing a day for a year or something, and then you probably end up getting rid of 2. I don't know how necessarily to like trick the ADHD brain. So I would tell anyone maybe that you go into it open-minded, not with like a end goal of 300 things. You just go into, I'm going to declutter something every day and see where that gets you. I think it's important to just reflect and kind of clean out some things, because I don't think I do a deep clean of all my stuff very often. But other people do. So I would recommend it with caution, with hesitation. What would you say?
I totally agree with you. I think, like we said, the biggest thing was deciding to declutter, and I think the number wasn't so important. I think just deciding to, you end up getting rid of more than you think you would realize. And I think this is a really good way to jumpstart my just habit of decluttering. So now that it's in the back of my head, I think I'm more likely to take things straight to the trash, or never buy that thing in the first place, or never pick up that free thing that I thought that I might want and just, well, it's free, so I'll just hold on to it. Or I'm less likely to pick up random papers and bring them into my home. So I think this was really good in shifting my mindset. So it's lasting longer than just the challenge. So highly recommend this brainworm.
Well, thank you to everyone for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Brainworms and Tangents to stay connected so you don't miss the next episode. And be sure to share this brainworm with a friend, and you guys can talk about your own and maybe declutter some things along the way. See you next time.